Hello, true believers. This is bebotsonly, and I wanted to talk about a subject that everybody is probably concerned about. And before I do that, I'm sorry for the camera video quality. I've just noticed that the quality on this camera phone sucks pretty bad, especially when I was taking sports type of football videos outside. I just started noticing it more often, and it was bothering me more often. That's why I was looking at camera phones, cell phones, and I kind of focused in on this Vivo X50 Pro. Okay, there's the X50 and then there's the X50 Pro. And the reason why I started becoming interested in this because the X50 Pro, as you could see, I was looking at their website earlier. Now, because it has some things that I wanted in it. Number one was the gimbal system. I think it's the only phone that has the gimbal. So number one, it has got the gimbal system, so it stabilizes the video, which I need a lot because I usually just hold the camera. And number two is I like how it has night vision. I mean sports mode and night vision and extreme night vision. So that's why I liked it. And number two is the price. I didn't want to spend like $1,000 or $2,000 on these fancy phones now. So at first I think it was $800. Now it's $600. I think when the phone first came out, it was like $800. Now there's the new version. The X60 is going to be coming out, I think this month or in the next several months. So it went down from $800 to $600, which is a pretty good deal. I think that would be a great price for a phone. I think $1,000 is too much. I mean, I won't say no. I mean, I had an iPhone before for $1,000, but everybody knows where that phone is. The police have it, and it's a pretty long process. I have to go through the courts. I have to ask for the judge for them to give it back to me, which is I have to wait for the court. I have to wait for and as you can see, hearings take months and years. And in the meantime, the police are using it as their personal camera, personal phone. So I don't have a camera or a phone in the meantime. So while we're waiting for that, I mean, I was thinking of just using this, but this phone isn't. So I was looking at that, the Vivo X50 Pro, not the X50, but the X50 Pro with the gimbal system. And it's 30,000 pesos. So if anybody wants to contribute to that, I will leave a link in the description. I actually set up my GCASH this morning to my phone. So I have a PayPal and a GCash for anybody who's interested who wants to make a contribution to them. Maybe I'll make a separate video. You know what? I'll make a separate video for that, asking people to contribute to the GCash for the phone. And you're probably asking, what about the camera? And I said, like I said, my Canon camera is with the police right now. I have to get a court order. I have to get the judge to give them back to me. And even if I get, after waiting months and years for that order, that doesn't mean they'll have it. And it's like, no, we don't know where it is. So somebody else has been using it. And then go through the process of filing a case against them for my camera and my phones going missing. So maybe I'll make a separate video for that. I probably will. But in the meantime, this video, what this video was for, so I have some medicine over here, was because COVID 19 COVID is a pretty big deal right now. It's all over the news. I haven't been watching the news, but I wanted to talk about how I survived COVID. So locked up abroad, how I survived my COVID. I got COVID infection while I was in. Everybody got COVID infected in prison. There was like over 600 prisoners in there, and nobody died. What's funny, in Muntinlupa, it's like 10 people died from COVID. And all those 10 people who died are like high profile drug lords with lots and lots of money and lots of connections, which is not me. I'm not a high profile drug lord. I am high profile, but there's no drug lord in me or drug lord connections. But those 10 people, there was like a list of 10 people. They're all high profile drug lords. They died and then they burned their bodies right away. So all you got was like a death certificate saying these people are dead. So and like I said, they're all high profile drug lords. There was a news, it was on for 2 weeks. So you could probably put two and two together that 10 high profile drug lords are probably not dead. That would probably be my guess. They just pretended that they were dead so they're out released out in the open is my guess. I have no proof of it whatsoever, but that's what the news reporters were insinuating when they were all high. And I'm just saying, from when I was in prison, like over 600 people and not one person died from COVID. Anyway, so when I had COVID, it was a weird thing. It was in June 2020, around that time, and I remember the first symptoms I started feeling was on a Monday. Well, what did they? So the first thing probably we want to ask is, what did the prison do when COVID happened? It was like lockdown, so no visitors, nobody gets to leave, nobody gets to visit. So it was a pretty hard time. I mean, no visitors. I mean, that was the only thing was looking forward to through all those years. And now for a year now, we're gonna get no visitors, no food. And the fortunate thing was, before the lockdown happened, I actually had medicine. And so all these things that I have, the medicine that I have, was already with me before. I just prepared for it. Even when I was in detention, before I was moved to the medium term prison, I already had medicine on me, not just for me, but for other people that would get sick around me that didn't have medicine. And so that's what they were doing. But even what they did, people, there's no way it was just a matter of time. I knew it was just a matter of time before everybody got infected with COVID in prison, because people, there's still distribution, like rice had to be delivered, and those people are going to be infecting. There's just no way that because of the way the system is set up, things still needed to be delivered to the prisons to keep the people alive. But and by way, no shape or form, is there any medicine allowed? You have to understand, for example, in America, I know they spend like $3,000 per prisoner per day in America, but over here you're talking about less than $1 per day, and half of that is already uh, uh, on its way is already, what do you call that? Or already corrupted. So probably you're talking about anywhere between 25 cents to 30 cents spent actually goes to the prisoner in terms of their rice and their broth every day. There's no medicine. There's none of that if you ever get sick, you're pretty much dead. If you ever caught something that normally you wouldn't die from, but in prison you could die from it, because if you don't get the medicine right away. For example, a UTI, and most men don't get it, but they do get it. They're a small population that do get it. I remember one of my friends, he's an accountant, and he was really stressed out, and he developed a UTI. Which I said, "You developed a UTI?" And he came to me, and I said, why? So he's a guy, but I was telling him, well, when you're washing yourself or when you're wiping yourself, I told him you need to wipe away from your vagina when he's taking a dump. So it's usually UTIs are bacterial infections, but men don't usually get it unless they have a vagina, of course. But it does happen. So I didn't get a UTI, and because you're limited to the bathroom usage and the hygiene. So I actually have some Cipro for UTI, but I didn't use it. But there was other people that needed it, and I gave it to them to save their lives, because if they didn't, they would have died. So I had Cipro in stock. So, but that's not what I used for COVID. So on Monday, I remember it was Sunday, I felt a headache. It was like this severe headache. So of course, usually when I have a headache, I usually take acetaminophen. Now, acetaminophen is not allowed in the Philippines. It doesn't exist. It's like also known as Tylenol. If you go to the store, they don't have Tylenol. They don't have it. They have no idea what it is. There's like this ban on acetaminophen here in the Philippines, where they protect the local brand, which is like paracetamol, I think. But of course, acetaminophen, this stuff is more effective when it comes. You could use the local paracetamol, but not as effective as this stuff over here. Pick up a big jar of it from Kirkland for like $2, and you're good to go. But like I said, you have to get this delivered to you, imported to you from Kirkland or Costco, or you're going to be in a lot of pain because here in the Philippines, somebody could correct me. There is no Tylenol or acetaminophen. I've been living here for like for what 15 years now, and I have never found it. And you just have to. So every time somebody comes over, I always ask, "Oh, can you give me some Tylenol, children's Tylenol, especially when the kids got sick. This is when they have fever. This is what I use." So I took some acetaminophen. My headache went away. So that was on a Sunday, and then Monday, the next day, I woke up in the middle of the night with this nasty chills. So of course, I said, "Oh, I probably have COVID now," because there was already several people that were having COVID and it was spreading pretty fast. So I just want to talk about the medicines that I used, how I survived COVID while I was in prison. So first and foremost, this is not available in prison. You're gonna have to get somebody to deliver this to you before. And like I said, before the pandemic occurred, I already had these in stock because you don't want to get sick and have to wait several days or until you can get medicine. So it's best to have them in stock. And I had the boss, uh, you can have medicine brought to you. They'll allow it, but like I said, you can't buy it. And there's no, they don't sell it in prison, or they don't give it to you in prison in case you get sick. So I had these already in stock. So I have Tylenol or acetaminophen done, and the other one that I usually work in combination with is ibuprofen. So you get some ibuprofen over here. I'll take two of these, and I'll take two of these together. So that'll take care of any headache or pain I had. And then I knew I had COVID. So there was three things that there was so the first thing I took was for my chills and fever was I took ibuprofen and ibuprofen. I took two of these and two of these at the same time every 4 to 6 hours. I didn't want to wait for the medicine to wear off. And like after half an hour, I went back to sleep. And then, so I also, when I took it, I go, "Oh, I got COVID," is azithromycin. This is for respiratory infections, and COVID is a kind of a respiratory disease. So here's azithromycin once a day for 3 days. I think these are like $1 or $1.50 each. So they're pretty expensive, but you only take it once a day. So I took three of these for 3 days. And then the fourth medicine that I took was antihistamine. I knew that most people get severe the reaction from the COVID, not the COVID itself, is what causes the most discomfort or damage to most people. So you want to minimize your reaction to it by using antihistamine. So I took I think three or four of these. So when I woke up and I go, "Oh crap, I've got COVID," I can tell by the fever. I mean, what else could it be? So I took four of these. I took two of these, Tylenol, took ibuprofen, and I took azithromycin. And then a half an hour later, went back to sleep like a baby. And I was taking these every 4 hours for the next 3 days. And then after that, all my symptoms were gone. I mean, my other symptom was headache, fever, but I took care of it with these two, so no problem. I was pretty comfortable. And then I took these two to lessen the reaction, and after 3 days, I was done with it. And the only thing that was kind of lingering after that was one of the things that you get from the effects from COVID is that your taste buds are affected by it, and some people can't taste or smell at all. Me, I could still taste, but I couldn't. I could only taste sour or something sweet, but I couldn't, or salty. So salty, sour, sweet, but I couldn't tell what kind of salty it was. So if I was like, for example, eating chicken or pork, I could tell that it was salty and it was meat, but I couldn't tell if it was chicken or pork. And eventually after like a week, my taste came back, no problems. I started developing these weird COVID lesions also. I had one like in my hand. I don't know if you could see it. There was like if you could see that dark spot right there, like I had like this dark spot that was in my hand before, and I had these like weird little lesions in my hand, and as you could see, it was right there where that you can see a little bit of darkness right there in the middle, and now it's gone now, and I was putting a lot of cream on it, antibiotic cream. I have antibiotic creams also and antifungal creams just because I couldn't figure out what it was. There's only three or four creams you can put topical creams you can put: antifungal, antibiotic, anti-inflammatory, and I had all those three creams also, so no problem. So I have ketoconazole also cream, and this triple antibiotic cream also, and an anti itch cream. I don't know where it is. So I had those three anti-inflammatory creams. So these were the things that I have in my medicine stock. And during this time, I really didn't tell people I had all this, or I try to keep it secret, because once one person finds out, everybody's gonna like, can you give me, give me, and I go, well, I gotta prioritize my health first. I don't want to. So everybody else, I would say, no, I'm sorry, no, I don't have it. I ran out already. Because once you give one to one, then you have to give one to the whole entire prison, and then that wasn't something I could do. I had to look out for numero uno first, because I mean, nobody's gonna be looking out for me in prison, especially with no visitors, no visits allowed, no contact. How am I gonna tell the boss I need medicine, I ran out, or something like that? So these were the medicines that kept me comfortable and possibly saved my life. But I mean, nobody died, so it just kind of kept me comfortable. For the people who didn't have any medicine, they were in pretty bad shape. They just had to go through the whole 2 week process, and in prison it was pretty. It's pretty rough. Some of the people were isolated in areas where the people that had symptoms, I didn't say I had any symptoms, because I didn't want to be isolated in an area where uh, with everybody else, and then you're definitely going to get it. So these are the four things, and this is what how do you, well, bebotsonly, how do you get antibiotics over there? Does it require a prescription? Yes and no. For some of the major chain places, like the chain stores, they do require prescription, because some of the people that work there are just, that's policy. But if you go to these independent mom and pop kind of places, that they're the owners that are selling to you versus somebody that's working there, they pretty much, if you know what you're talking about, if you're not kind of hesitant about it. And then there's this place that I go to all the time to get medicine. I even get like ceftriaxone and all these other things. Here in the Philippines, they sell like that. That's where, if you want something done, people like small procedures, you can go to the pharmacy store and get the materials, and then take them to the doctor that will do it to you. Because most doctors or most clinics won't stock them, so you can buy them yourselves with a prescription. And but if you go to these independent places without, as long as you know what you're talking about, where, because I would go up and I would say, I'll need this much, this dosage. I just use the terminology that they're familiar with, so they think like I'm a pharmacist or a doctor also when I buy medicine. So they don't ask me for a prescription when I got it. And I told the boss about this place. I go, yes, most places do they all require a prescription. I corrected. But if you know what you're talking about, I mean, the people are just selling antibiotics. Nobody's going to overdose from my antibiotic, or take it the wrong way. The worst case scenario is you develop resistance, which is not really their problem. So yes, you can get it without a prescription, and that's what I asked the boss to get it for me, so I'll be comfortable and I don't die from COVID while you're in prison. So that's how I survived COVID in prison, is using these four things: Tylenol, acetaminophen, ibuprofen for the pain, headache, body aches, and fever. So nothing zaps fever like these two. And then to zithromycin for any respiratory infection, and then antihistamine to decrease the reaction of your body from the foreign invasion, so you're reacting to it violently. So you don't react to it violently. So these are the things that I use to survive. And if you have these at home, that's great. Then you should have a good chance of surviving COVID, no problem. So that's how I survived COVID while locked up abroad in a third world prison, where you have no access to medicine or any kind of health care. But if you could self-diagnose, and if you got this, then you'll be comfortable, no problem, while you're in prison. That's probably the most important thing, or the most thing that worries about the most subject that worries me when it comes to prison is if I ever get sick. So when it comes to getting sick, I also have, like I said, Cipro if you develop UTI. So I got ciprofloxacin over here. And the other one that I use a lot is Keflex and amoxicillin. Where's my amoxicillin? I had amoxicillin before. Or Augmentin. What do I do with it? What do I do? Oh, here it is, amoxicillin. So these were the drugs I took a lot because you develop a lot of like skin infections, like boils. Because if you just do nothing but sit around and lay down all day, just waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting, then you develop a lot of boils or bed sores, and you get a lot of redness. And like I said, you develop a lot of these superficial skin infections. So if I develop like a boil or some kind of pimple on mostly on your butt area, because that's where you're sitting and you're sweating and it's humid and it's hot, and then you develop a lot of like these skin infections, and you would take these for I would take these for like a week or 2 weeks at a time, 3 times a day. So that's another thing that kind of kept me comfortable. And since I was laying down a lot, I got a lot of heartburn. So I got a bunch of antacid also to keep me comfortable. And that's pretty much it. And then multivitamin, I kind of took it. I sometimes I did, sometimes I didn't, because you're not gonna get enough of the quality food that you normally get outside. So I took a multivitamin just to kind of supplement so I don't become malnourished, because you could die from malnourishment, like I said, while you're in prison. But these are the medicines that I pretty much kept me comfortable while I was waiting my two and a half on my third year, while I was waiting for my due process. Like I said, it just takes a long time. That's why I'm saying I should get another camera now, because the due process, if I could get it back, is going to take not only several months, but maybe several years to get it back. And that's why I wanted to get a camera in the meantime on top of that. But in the meantime, if you ever find yourself locked up abroad, the first thing you should do is to keep yourself comfortable. It's so hard. I mean, prison is already, boredom is probably like your biggest problem, but getting sick is even worse. Imagine if you're sick in prison. On top of that, it makes life extremely miserable on top of that. But if you can have something to keep you comfortable, like if you get heartburn because you're laying down all the time, just waiting and sitting, then you've got antacid. And if you're limited use to the bathroom and hygiene. Oh, and also I got metronidazole. And here's metronidazole. Now this is if you get dysentery. For some reason you don't have clean water, and you have to use the prison water. And normally they sell what they could sell is like filtered water. So I buy like a big huge jug for $1. But in case they ran out, or in case I get a bad batch of water and I get dysentery, I have metronidazole. Unfortunately, maybe my system was probably used to really hard water, really nasty water. I never used it. But just in case you get dysentery from the water, make sure you have metronidazole. So here's a list of things that you're going to need. So you need Cipro if you develop a UTI because you have limited use and hygiene in the bathroom. Done. So if you UTI, people got it. It was very painful. One guy was like crying for like several days, and then I said, I go, maybe you have a UTI, and I gave him some, and he cleared up his UTI right away. It was weird. I thought it was appendicitis, and I go, you know what? Let's just take some Cipro in case, because sometimes appendicitis kind of looks like UTI. It could travel, so I had some Cipro. These are relatively affordable over here. UTI done. And if you have dysentery because you drank the water, and the water is prison water, local tap water, then drink some of this 3 times a day or 4 times a day or twice or whatever it is to get rid of it. And then if you get boils, pimples, any type of skin infection, cephalexin, Keflex for especially you get the big boils in your butt, and so it doesn't have to be incision and drainage or lanced. amoxicillin. There's some people in prison that develop some really nasty boils, and some of them have to be popped, and it's a pretty nasty experience. And then also my creams. So you get three types of creams. Get a antifungal cream, anti-inflammatory cream, and antibiotic cream. So if you have those three creams, which I do, that'll keep you comfortable. And also for COVID, to wrap this up, antihistamine, antibiotic, respiratory, azithromycin, ibuprofen, and acetaminophen. All these three are available at the drugstore with a prescription. I mean, these are without a prescription, the antihistamine and the ibuprofen. But if you don't, all these are available. But acetaminophen, if you don't have it, then just get paracetamol. And this is available also with a prescription. But if you talk to the pharmacist and you go to an independent one that's owned independently, then they'll sell it to you. If you just talk to them in a way that they'll understand, that like, hey, you could explain to them, I'm buying this for someone in prison. They can't be here. They can't go to a doctor, and they really need it badly because they got a respiratory infection. I'm sure they'll sell it to you, as long as I'm sure if you explain it to them why you need it. Anyway, that's how I survived COVID and how I kept comfortable. If in case, like I said, if in case you get dysentery, if in case you get urinary tract infection, and in case you get these nasty boils in prison. And because it's like being in prison is already bad, getting sick is even worse. Anyway, this is Bebots Only. If you have any questions or comments, or if you want to contribute to the camera phone, so I could have a phone and with a good camera on it, I'll leave a description, link in the description. You could use my PayPal email, bebotsonlyvendetta@gmail.com, or you could use I have GCASH, by the way, which I will link which is linked to my new phone number over here. So you could use that phone number if you want to make contributions through GCASH for the phone, or any other contribution you want to make. I also there's some new Puma shoes that I want to get for Hero that I would like to try out. So I'll probably make a separate video of that. But anyway, this video is about being locked up abroad, getting sick, and how to deal with it. And you better have somebody like the boss outside that will help you, will be your lifeline, so you'll have access to medicine, and it'll keep you comfortable. That you should have, for the most part, you should have no problems getting these medicines or getting them given to you. You have the right to be given food, and you have the right to be given life-saving medicine. The only problems I could see is some of them will, they'll maybe take half of it or some of it during the transport or the handling. Anyway, I pretty much got most of what I need. And also soap, I forgot. But that's not medicine. But I had sulfur soap that I used to keep my skin clean. I should have brought that out. Dr. Wong's sulfur soap. So maybe I'll do another video another time. But those are the things you need to keep yourself hygienically clean and comfortable. I'll probably do a separate hygiene where I talk about soap, toothpaste, other hygiene stuff that you're going to need. But in the meantime, for your health, these are the medicines that I used while I was in prison. Anyway, this is Bebots Only. If you have any questions, and if you have any if you want to share what it was like if you had COVID or anything like that, please let me know in the comments, and all the other nonsense. Subscribe and smash that like button. This is Bebots Only. Thanks for watching.